I'm Jessica Vieira, Executive Director of the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce. Over the last week, I've had the opportunity to interview the Greater Wasilla area MatSu Borough Assembly candidates. Our Government Affairs Committee has curated a list of questions they felt were important to businesses in the Greater Wasilla area and the MatSu Valley as a whole. We greatly appreciate each of the candidates' time coming in and interviewing with us, and we hope this helps all of our area residents be informed voters as they head to the polls this year.
Thank you, Amber, for joining me here today. To begin, could you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
My name is Amber Sanchez and I'm running for MatSu Borough Assembly candidate, and the reason why I am is my family's integrated in this valley very deeply. My great uncle lived up here, and my cousins and my little cousins are being raised out here in the valley, so it's actually very important with the Alaska community in my family. The reason I am running is because I feel like we need someone to run right now. We need someone to step in. I really feel that way, the way things are going. I feel very frustrated with a lot of way things are happening, and I'm not able to do anything about it. All I'm able to do is watch news articles and yell at the TV. It's kind of frustrating. I'm not a politician by any means, but I really do care about my valley. And I see what's happening in bigger cities, and I see what's happening down the lower 48, and I just don't want that to happen here. So that's honestly why I'm running. I basically have a saying, don't Anchorage my Wasilla. So that's why I'm stepping in and running.
Okay, question 1. What is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
So I actually looked into a little bit. I actually looked into strong mayor a little bit more. And the reason why I first said I wanted one, and then I actually double guessed myself. And the reason why is because going back and looking more into it, even though Anchorage doesn't have a strong mayor, it was almost acting as if it did have a strong mayor, where it didn't have to worry about other people saying, and they were able to be taken over just like that. And so I don't want that. So opposed to having a strong manager, us paying a mayor and paying a manager, which is costly, at least we'd be able to stop something we didn't like, opposed to the mayor just having the ultimate say. Because it's great when that's in the right hands, but when that's in the wrong hands, that can become very, very bad for our entire valley. And the whole point of the valley is we are one. We want to have a strong voice. We want to be heard. And right now we feel like we're not, and we don't need it again. We don't need a dictator. We need all of our voices to be heard.
All right, question 2. What do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
The MatSu Borough is growing. It's growing every single day. We are the heart of Alaska. To get to Fairbanks, you have to go through us. To get back from Fairbanks, you have to go through us. Anchorage is our next biggest city, and Fairbanks is, but they don't realize that we're about to be the biggest city there is. Planning and development is very important. But it's very important to do it right. We can't build poor infrastructures because we have earthquakes here. So we have to make sure that we have the proper rules in there and the proper building structures and codes that are followed. It's very important to boom our economy. It's very important to make sure that we build the housing sustainable development that we need. Not necessarily low-income housing, because within low-income housing becomes a lot more crime rate and everything, but to keep an actual affordable housing for mid-sized families and actually have more family planning and building in those environments too as well. I think that's what would help grow Alaska and Wasilla in particular, is more family buildings.
Okay, question 3. What relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
I think the borough's relationship with the people actually needs to be strengthened. I think that a lot of people came down. They actually spoke when it came to regulations on gun ranges and gun, in the community. And I feel like they all came down. The community was there. They spoke, yet they weren't heard. And I think we need to improve because I think the problem is we've forgotten that we work for the people. We've forgotten who hired us, why we're here, and what we're here to do, who we represent. And as when you become assembly member, yeah, you have a district, but you represent the whole valley. So whether you're talking about light bulbs, or you're talking about schools, or you're talking about regulations for guns, when the community comes out, they need to be heard. You represent them. You don't represent your own opinion. You don't listen to them and then dismiss them. It's not. So if I were to ever become assembly member, I would listen to my community. I would literally listen to them. I would ask every question I possibly could and hear what they had to say, because I am one of the people. So what I do, it doesn't affect, somebody else. It affects me. I'm not a politician. I'm one of them. So I want to listen to what my fellow constituents say. I want to know how you feel, because I feel the same way. It affects me at home.
All right, question 4. Of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
I think the borough needs to fix some roads that are in the borough, such as KGB. That needs to be fixed. I mean, it's devastating to know that. What upsets me the most is the incident right before Christmas where that woman lost her husband, and knowing that all of his Christmas gifts were wrapped under that tree, and because we failed to go over and put money where it should have been on a road that so desperately needs. He hit a rut, and next thing you know, he's gone, just like that. And that's falls on us. That falls on city officials. It falls on borough officials. It falls on the state of law. It falls on all of us. It's all of our shoulders. So we owe that. As an assembly, I'm so sorry for that. As a person, I'm so sorry to her for that. That is terrible. But that needs to be fixed immediately. I'm talking next spring. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be addressed. That needs to be a 2-lane road. Number one, it needs to be widened. It's chaos in that road, and it's dangerous, especially in these conditions. So roads, crime is very important. There's been too many times where I'm looking at the news and I'm saying, well, this guy escaped to this state. Why is he out on bail? I don't understand it. Like, you look at all these crimes, why is he out on bail? He shouldn't be. That you call the troopers, there's nothing they can do. The troopers is all we have to rely on in the borough, and their hands are tied to the effects of SB 91. So, it's gone, but we're still dealing with the after effects of it. So crime, and what would I do to fix crime? Tougher, no bail, higher bail. And no bail on repeat offenders. I don't want to see this person in the parking lot doing drugs and then knowing that he just got a citation, and surprise, he doesn't show up to his court date. So those are some of our biggest frustrations, because I don't know how many times I've had to literally on my property and on my family's property, kick off people that have just been, I'm just walking through, or I'm just time, and you know what they're really up to. And it's very disappointing and discouraging for us as citizens, and us as, I call them Pomeranians and Wasillans, to go over and have to deal with this and feel like we're so helpless. It feels that way, and I feel that. And so that's one of the first things I would address, is the roads that we drive on every day, and crime.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for joining me here today. To begin, could you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
I'm a lifetime Valley resident. I was born here in 1980, graduated at Wasilla High. Family's been here since the 40s. Raised my 6 kids here. We're still raising my 6 kids here. Lifetime resident.
Okay, question 1. What is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
Strong manager. The manager works for the assembly. He most of the week would really be tried by Saturday and hung by one, especially if you can launch an Anchorage early.
Okay, so question 2. What do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
There needs to be a minimal role. I've done quite a bit of development in my day, and I think that the Valley compared, I've developed in Solana, the Valley, Anchorage. I think we're right where we need to be. Limited role is good. We want to make sure our roads are built correctly, things like that. But, we've never had zoning out here. It's too late for that 67 years later, right? So I think we're right where we need to be.
All right, question 3. What relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
The MatSu Borough is lucky to have Mike Dunleavy right now in office. I'd say if anything, we need to spend more time working with Mike to try to bring funds to the Valley to help us with our roads. I don't think it's a coincidence that Anchorage and Fairbanks and Juneau have got all the best roads in the city, and we're lacking in many ways. So I think right now it's important that the boroughs start working hand in hand with Juneau, doing everything they can through our local elected officials, our House and our Senate.
Okay. Okay, question 4. Of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
The Assembly's got a lot of control over development, responsible development, future job opportunities, giving people a chance to make money here in the valley, other parts of the borough, maybe outside of Anchorage or outside the North Slope. We've got a lot of untapped resources and opportunity to do such things here. Tourism, we really need to expand on bringing people here and not having everyone drive through Wasilla. We are right now tourism-wise, we're missing out on a lot of revenue, a lot of opportunity. Everybody passes through on the way to Denali or wherever they be headed, but there's a lot of amazing things to do out here. And those are 2 areas the Assembly can do a great job of helping expand.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen, for joining me here today. To begin, could you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
I moved to the Valley in 1996, so I've been here about 25, well, working on 25 years now. I have 2 children, and I'm now raising my grandchild, who is at Cottonwood Creek Elementary. In the time that I've been up here, I have been involved with, I was elected to the school board for a period of time. I served for 3 years on the school board. My last year as a president of the school board. I was a private school principal and teacher for 8 years for 2 Christian schools here in the Valley. I currently am on the Planning Commission. The last 4 years I have been serving as the chairperson of the Planning Commission. Part of that I was on the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. I served on that for 2 years before I was elected to the school board. And I was also part of the board for the Community Council, for the Fairview Community Council. So I've been very involved in a lot of areas through some circumstances, some land use issues, and some other things that have happened to myself over the past 20 years since I've been up here. And I was asked to be on the Planning Commission, and I was very excited to join that because of the land issues, and I was hoping to get a better handle on exactly how regulations and policies were set so that I would have a better understanding of how and why things happened. And then that led me to, I would really like to see some of those policies and things change. And that is when I decided, after speaking with Ted Leonard, he indicated he was not going to run for another term. And I threw my hat in the ring because I would like to see the Valley grow and develop and mature in a way that is not quite as haphazard as it currently is, with having to purchase lands for road structures and things that we can foresee that are coming up. We know that the population is continuing to grow. We know that Anchorage citizens are moving out here, that our road systems are in failure, most of them. They're already overcrowded. Even as they're being built, they're already overcrowded. So those are some of the things and the reasons why I decided to run.
Okay, so what is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
I favor at this time, from what I have heard and understand, I favor the strong mayor position for 2 reasons. One, because they would then be more accountable to the voters, the population, the people that put them in office. Right now, as a weak mayor, they really only have the ability to veto, and that's only if it's a 4-3 vote. They represent the borough, but they can't actually negotiate and make decisions for the borough, and that's my second reason. As we continue to grow and develop, and we can't continue to pretend that we're this small bedroom community for Anchorage. In the past 10 years, we have had 2 Alaska State governors come from this area and a vice presidential candidate come from this area. You know, whatever you're feeling about that is. The fact is we're on the map, and we're going to continue to be on the map. And so we need a mayor that can actually negotiate, dialogue with other cities, states, even countries. We have natural resources and other things that can be imported, exported, other decisions. And a lot of other countries don't want to talk to a mayor or a manager. They want to speak to the person that's elected, the person who holds the votes, the person who the people represent. So for those reasons, I currently, until somebody can come up with a better reason why, we pay our mayor, our manager, we can pay a mayor and to do those kinds of things and represent the people of the community.
All right, question 2. What do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
Right now, it's been non-existent. Being on the planning board, the one thing I have learned is that, especially with the marijuana cultivation and retail, that has become a very big issue for a lot of people. And because of the lack of any planning, as long as you meet conditional uses for any nuisance type of business, you can literally put them anywhere. And the result of that is I have found that everybody's a NIMBY at some point, and not in my backyard person. Even the harshest nose owners have been that way. And I don't think we need to or should be zoning the entire borough. It's very diverse. But I certainly would like to see planned development in the area where the largest population base is. Again, our roads are in failure. A lot of that is because we didn't have the ability or the willingness to plan for any of those things. And now we are, various land areas are pocked with current businesses that you're either going to have to do a taking or you're going to have to buy them in some way, whether it's going to be a voluntary or forced taking. And we're seeing that now as we're developing more and more roads, that we are actually having to take lands. And I hate to see that. That's not a good way to ever do your development. So if we don't think, I'd like to say 50 years, but even 20 years down the road with what the population, we have a good idea through our census and through the past history of what that development and population-based growth is going to continue to be. And we need to be thinking about that. And we need to be purchasing land and making plans now for how we're going to accommodate that growth and the continued traffic that comes with it.
All right, question 3. What relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
Well, the largest population base in the borough is the Wasilla area. And I know that there have been attempts, and they're going to continue to be there, to annex larger population base and larger land areas. So I think that a huge primary relationship that needs to be established is with the Wasilla Chamber and community, right, the council there, with the mayor, whoever that is. I think that there is not a lot of communication always between the MatSu mayor and the Wasilla mayor. I think that there might be more with the Palmer mayor just because they're closer by, and I don't think there's any with the Houston either. So I think that with Wasilla, because of the population base, but we just need to form a better relationship within the borough with our cities. And then, of course, with the governor, we had some plans that were stopped because of a poor relationship with the previous governor that have then taken a long time to get started again. And some of those are road construction. We have the funding, and we have a 95% plan for the Seward Meridian that has been on hold now for several years. And the Seward Meridian is one of those roads that's in failure. And it's one of those roads that we've had to buy a bunch of property, and that's what's holding things up right now. The other one is Connect Goose Bay. Why hasn't that been completed? We also have the funds and the design plan for that, but that got stopped. So for safety of the borough, we certainly need to have a better relationship with the state. I think the relationship between the borough and our local constituents is good, but that also needs to follow through with the governor, who can then expand that to other population bases who are concerned about one community getting more money over another one, and there's some of those inter-fighting things. And so I think what I would really like to see is a better relationship starting with the governor and then also drifting down to some of the other communities to help them recognize that with the growth just explosion that we have seen, the largest growing area in the state for nearly 10 years now. Population that's more than doubled in size in the past 12, 15 years. That with that comes a need for additional funds, and might not seem fair, but when you look at a population base and the needs of the people and the tax base, which in this community is largely homeowners, we need additional help. And that's only going to come through relationship with the governor and other legislators.
Okay, question 4. Of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
As an assembly member, you're one of 7 votes, so you have 1/7 of control over everything that the borough does, to be really honest with you. What I know that some of those things that are going through now, some of the funding for different projects, I know that, part of the Hatch Your Pass project and all of those major projects are out there. What the borough has control over right now is determining what our next road constructions are going to be, where the CARS funds are going to, the CARES Act kind of funds are going to be going. What I would really like to see is, and what I now see, of course, has to do with roads and the STIP and those processes that are going through, right now they're going through. There are two, my big ones are infrastructure, if you haven't figured that one out, and partly because I was a commuter for so many years and up until very recently, and I just know that it shouldn't take me 30 minutes to get through Wasilla and then 30 minutes once I get through it to get to Anchorage, and it's clearly much farther. So I also think that not having a good business district, not having good infrastructure that allows people to get on and off the road to do their business, they don't do their business. They drive right through Wasilla. And we're not looking at a bypass, and that would be a Wasilla event that, again, we would have to be in a good relationship with them to work through that process, but they don't want to bypass. But right now, what's happening isn't helping their business anyway. My other one that is something that's coming up is wetlands mitigation. We are seeing a lot of companies that are coming through. We are a resource-rich community, and I don't have any problem, and I think that those resources as another base for both employment and also income bases, I think that that's a good thing for us to develop. I hesitate though when we're talking about putting those kinds of things or roads through wetlands when I look at how important wetlands are. It's not just that we're saving the frogs and the birds that are in the wetlands. As a former biology teacher, the wetlands are the kidneys of the land. They're the source that drains and filters and keeps the water clean. And so I don't think we want to mess with those. And currently our mitigation is very poor. We have about a 2% mitigation. If you go through a wetland, you have to mitigate and fix about 2% of the land mass that you consume. I would like to see that change because I think that eventually we're going to pay for that. And we have a couple of big projects out there that I think are good projects for the community. I think they're going to be beneficial to the population as a whole now. But I also know that if you mess with those wetlands, because it's going through about 90 miles of a road through wetlands, that you need to protect that, because if we don't have clean water, we don't have salmon spawning, and we don't have clean water and the things that matter, that will matter to the future generations to come.